श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यसतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna devotees, thank you for joining. We have been reading Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 28. We just started this chapter last week. Today we'll continue from text 3 onwards. So, as of now, in this chapter, we have seen that it says Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. Yeah. So Prabhupada already revealed it in the purport of the second verse we saw. So what happened is, so as we discussed in the last chapter, Puranjana being engaged in his family life, had so many children, and then in the due course of time, the time actually has passed and he is nearing death. Yeah. And then we saw the old age and disease attacking the living entity. Now in this chapter, basically we'll see how Puranjana dies and gets his next life. So just two verses we read as of now. The first verse, Narada Muni said that the dear King Prachinabarisat, afterward the king of the Yavanas, whose name is fear itself, as well as Prajwara. Prajwara is the Jwara, is the fever, and Prajwara is the very high fever at the time of death that we discuss. So Kalakanya and his soldiers began to travel all over the world. Yeah. And then he says that these dangerous soldiers attack the city of Puranjana. You know, city of Puranjana is what? City of Puranjana is the body, right? As we discussed. So they attack the body of the living entity. And then there we discussed a bit more on Prabhupada's purports, stating that how by remembering Krishna we can come to Krishna. If we remember something else at the time of death, we will be destined to that. Right. So let us see from text 3 today. Kalakanyāpi bubhuje puranjanam puram balat yayabhibhuta purushaha sadhyo nisaratamiyat. Yeah, Kushali Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Gradually, Kalakanya, with the help of dangerous soldiers, attacked all the inhabitants of Puranjana city and thus rendered them useless for all purposes.
So, at the fag end of life, when the invalidity of old age attacks a man, his body becomes useless for all purposes. I mean, this we see in our nearby, that even what we speak of nearby, we even see sometimes when we feel sick, right? So that time also we can't do anything. You know, last week I was, on fever. It's just lying on the bed, nothing. There is no energy, even no energy for eating food as well, right? You even don't like eating food as well, like that. So what to speak of end of the life? So therefore, Vedic training dictates that when a man is in his boyhood, he should be trained in the process of brahmacharya. That is, he should be completely engaged in the service of the Lord and should not in any way associate with women. That is the brahmacharya. When the boy becomes a young man, he marries between the ages of 20 and 25. When he is married at the right age, he can immediately beget strong, healthy sons. Now, female descendants are increasing because young men are very weak sexually. A male child will be born if the husband is sexually stronger than the wife, but it is a female is stronger, the female child will be born. Thus, it is essential to practice the system of brahmacharya if one wishes to beget a male child when one is married. When one reaches the age of 50, he should give up the family life. At that time, one's child should be grown up so that the father can leave the family responsibilities to him. I know that's why the kings are called Raja Rishis. And they are Raja Rishis because uh, they used to rule the kingdom, and when time comes, they give up the responsibility and then move ahead. The husband and wife may then go abroad to live a retired life and travel to different places of pilgrimage. Abroad doesn't mean Western world. It's basically living of the house. And when both the husband and the wife lose their attachment for family and home, the wife returns home to live under the care of her grown-up children and to remain aloof from the family affairs. The husband then take sannyasa to render some service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the perfect system of civilization. The human form of life is especially meant for God realization. If one is unable to take the process of Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life, he must be trained to accept this principle at the fag end of life. So basically, Prabhupada is trying to say that whenever we woke up means we get the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we should grab it right away. If it's early age, well and good. In middle age, well and good. Even at the end of the age, we should try to. But as we grow older, proportionality will become difficult to take Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Unfortunately, there is no training even in the childhood, nor can one give up his family life even at the end. Yeah. This is the salvation situation with the city of Puranjana, figuratively described in these verses. Okay. Text 4. तयोपभूज्यमानानां वै यवना सर्वतो दिशां द्वाभिर्प्रविश्य शुभ्रं प्रार्दयं सकलां पुरीं. Yeah, Rupesh Prabhu.
Balakanya, daughter of time, attacked the body. The dangerous soldiers of the king of the Yavanas entered the city through different gates. They then began to give severe trouble to all the citizens.
So the body is being troubled, right? So the body has 9 gates. Yeah, so it says that these soldiers, they entered through different gates, and the body has 9 gates we discussed about earlier. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, mouth, rectum, and genitals. When one is harassed by the invalidity of the old age, various diseases manifest at the gates of the body. For example, the eyes become so dim that one requires spectacles, and the ears becomes too weak to hear directly, and therefore one requires hearing aids. The nostrils are blocked by mucus, and one has to always sniff a medicinal bottle containing ammonia. Similarly, the mouth, too weak to chew, requires a false teeth. The rectum also gives one trouble, and the evacuation process becomes difficult. Sometimes one has to take enemas and sometimes use surgical nozzle to accelerate the passing of urine. I mean, if you see that the whole fact is written here, right? This is visualization of the old age. Yeah. In this way, the city of Puranjana was attacked at various gates by the soldiers. Thus, in old age, all the gates of the body are blocked by so many diseases, and one has to take help from so many medicines and surgical appliances. Yeah, no doubt in the fact. Let us see text. Tashyam prapidyamanayaam abhimani puranjanaha avaporu vidham stapan kutumbi mamatakula. Tell Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. When the city was thus endangered by the soldiers and Kalakanya, King Puranjana, being overly absorbed in affection for his family, was placed in difficulty by the attack of Yavana Raja and Kalakanya. Hare Krishna.
So let us see. I think it's quite clear, but let us see how this relates to the body. So when we refer to the body, we include the external gross body with its various limbs, as well as the mind, intelligence, and ego. In old age, these all becomes weak when they are attacked by different diseases. The proprietor of the body, the living soul, becomes very sad at not being able to use the field of activities properly. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly explained that the living entity is the proprietor of this body, Kshetragya. This is chapter 13. Yeah. And that the body is the field of activity, Kshetra. So when a field is overgrown with thorns and weeds, it becomes very difficult for the owner to work on it. That is the position of the spirit soul when the body itself becomes a burden due to disease. Yeah. An extra burden are placed on this body in the form of anxiety and general deterioration of the bodily function. So this is this again explaining in more what happens in the old age, and even the living soul which is there. Prabhupada writes in the very first line, it says that when we refer to the body, we include the external gross body with its various limbs, as well as the mind, intelligence, and ego. So the Pancha Mahabhut by which the body is made, and also the mind, intelligence, and ego. These 8 are called as body. Body has 3 sections actually. One is the gross, which we could actually see. This is our bodily limbs. And then the subtle is the mind, intelligence, ego, and subtler is the soul, which we can't see. And at the time of death or in the old age, when is being attacked by so many soldiers of Kalyavana or Kalakanya, yeah, this body is become weak and it's cannot perform as it's supposed to perform. Yeah. And on top of that, we have anxiety and other problems as well. So let us see text 6. Kanyopagudha nasta sri karpano vishayatmaka nasta prajyo hritis varyo gandharvaya nirvalat. Yeah, Urmila Mataji.
Hare Krishna Guru. When King Puranjana was embraced by Kalkanya, he gradually lost all his beauty. Having been too much addicted to sex, he became very poor in intelligence and lost all his opulence. Being, being bereft of all possessions, he was conquered forcibly by Gandharva and the Yavanas. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Okay. So basically, when it was attacked by Yavanas and Gandharvas, right, we saw in the last chapter as well. So this body becomes quite weak, as we see in the previous few verses, and because of that, he is not able to perform anything. So when a person is attacked by the invalidity of old age and is still addicted to sense gratification, he gradually loses all his personal beauty, intelligence, and good possessions. He thus cannot resist the forceful attack of the daughter of the time. Yeah. So let us reveal more. Text 7. Vishyanam Sopurim Vitya Vikshya Pratikulan Anartan Putran Pautran Matyan Jayam Cha Gata Sauhridam. Yes, Gorangi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. King
Right.
Puranjana then saw that everything in his town was scattered and that his sons, grandsons, servants, and ministers were all gradually opposing him. He also noted that his wife was becoming cold and indifferent.
Yeah. So, his sons, grandsons, who are these? It's basically the desires, unlimited desires of the human being, right? And serpents is the life air, right? And and even his wife has a good intelligence, right? So basically, he could see that everything is opposing him. No one is actually able to help him out. Yeah. So when one becomes an invalid, his senses and organs are weakened. In other words, they are no longer under one's control. The senses and sense objects then begin to oppose him. When a person is in distress condition, even his family members, his sons, grandsons, and wife become disrespectful. They no longer are under the command of the master of the house, just as we wish to use our senses for sense gratification. The senses also require strength from the body in reciprocation. A man keeps a family for enjoyment, and similarly, family members demand enjoyment from the head of the family. When they do not receive sufficient money from him, they grow disinterested and ignore his commands or desires. This is all due to one's being a karpana or a miser. The word karpana is used in the 6th verse is in opposition to the word brahmana. In the human form of life, one should become a brahmana, which means that one should understand the constitutional position of the absolute truth, Brahman, and then engage in his service as a Vaishnava. We get this facility in the human form of life, but if we do not properly utilize this opportunity, we become krapana or a miser. A miser is one who gets money but does not spend it properly. This human form of life is especially meant for understanding Brahman, for becoming a Brahmana, and if we do not utilize it properly, we remain a Krapana. We can actually see that when one has money but does not spend it, he remains a miser and is never happy. Similarly, when one's intelligence is spoiled due to sense gratification, he remains a miser throughout his life. Yeah. So that's what happened in old days. I mean, so Prabhupada gives both comparison. Right, when someone is unable to do anything, he's old, his organs are weak, senses are weak, he can't perform anything. His all senses are opposing him. In a similar way, in the family life, if a person is distressed in a distressed condition, then even his family members, his sons, relatives, grandsons, they all, uh, go in a different way. Text 8. Atmanam Kanyaya Grastam Panchalam Aridustitam Duranta Chintam Apanno Nalabhe Tat Pratikriyam. Yeah, Kishori Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. When King Puranjana saw that all his family members, relatives, followers, servants, secretaries, and everyone else had turned against him, he certainly became very anxious. But he could not counteract the situation because he was thoroughly overwhelmed by Kalakanya.
Yeah. So, I mean, this you can imagine like an old person, and he sees everyone is opposing him, so he gets more irritated like that, you know. So when a person becomes weak from the attack of old age, the family members, servants, and secretaries do not care for him. He is then unable to counteract this. Thus, he becomes more and more anxious and laments his frightful condition. So, I mean, this chapter is kind of reminding us what's going to the condition like in the old ages, right? Text 9. कामान् अभिलषान्दीनो यत्यामांश्य कन्यया विगता विगतात्म sorry विगतात्मगति स्नेह पुत्रदारं शलालयम्. Rupesh Prabhu.
The object of enjoyment became stale by the influence of Kalakanya. Due to the continuance of his lusty desires, King Puranjana became very poor in everything. Thus, he did not understand the aim of life. He was still very affectionate toward his wife and children, and he worried about maintaining them.
Yeah, even in the old days, he's thinking about how family will run through. Yeah, this is the fact actually. This is exactly the position of a present civilization. Everyone is engaged in maintaining the body, home, and family. Consequently, everyone becomes confused at the end of life. Not knowing what spiritual life and the goal of human life are, in a civilization of sense gratification, there cannot be spiritual life. Because a person thinks only of his life, of this life, yeah. Although the next life is a fact, no information is given about it. Because he thinks that everything is there. No, many philosophers also speak about that everything is this life. There was nothing in the past, nothing in the future. No, have to do everything in this life. If you do good, you will enjoy in this life. If you do bad, you will suffer in this life as well. But the fact is that the information about next life is not known. Yeah, text 10. Gandharva yavana krinatam. Sorry. Gandharva yavana krantam kala kanyopa pamarditam hantum prachkrame raja tampuri manikamata. Istyal Mataji.
The city of King Puranjana was overcome by the Gandharva Ravana soldiers, and although the king had no desire to leave the city, he was circumstantially forced to do so. For like
I'll read again because we could not hear properly. Yeah. The city of the king Puranjana was overcome by the Gandharva and Yavana soldiers. And although the king had no desire to leave the city, he has circumstantially forced to do so, for it was smashed by Kalakanya. Beautiful line. Although the king had no desire to leave the city, basically the Jiva has no desire to leave this body, isn't it? However, circumstantially, he is forced to do it. Right? We say that, a time will take everything out. Even if you have no desire, it will take away. So the living entity, separated from the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, tries to enjoy this material world. He is given a chance to enjoy it in a particular type of body, beginning with the body of a Brahma down to that of a microbe. From the Vedic history of creation, we can understand that the first living creature was Lord Brahma, who created the 7 great sages and other Prajapatis to increase the universal population. Thus, every living entity, according to karma, his past desires and activities, gets a particular type of body. From that Brahma to that of a microbe or germ in stool, due to long association with a particular type of metal body, and also due to the grace of Kalakanya and her Maya, one becomes overly attached to the material body. Although it is the abode of pain, even if one tries to separate a worm from stool, the worm will be unwilling to leave. It will return to the stool. Similarly, a hog generally lives in a very filthy state, eating stool. But if one tries to separate it from its condition and give it a nice place, the hog will be unwilling. In this way, if we study each and every living entity, we will find that he will defy offers of a more comfortable position. Although King Puranjana was attacked from all sides, he was unwilling to leave the city. In other words, the living entity, whatever his condition, does not want to give up the body, but he will be forced to give it up because, after all, this metal body cannot exist forever. The jiva exists, but the body never exists forever. So the living entity wishes to enjoy the material world in different ways, and therefore, by nature's law, he is allowed to transmigrate from one body to another. Exactly as a person transmigrates from the body of an infant to a child, to a boy, to a youth, to a man. This process is constantly going on. At the last stage, when the gross body becomes old and invalid, the living entity is reluctant to give up it. Despite the fact that it is no longer unusable, although material existence and the material body are not comfortable, why does the living entity not want to leave? As soon as one gets a metal body, he has to work very hard to maintain it. He may engage in different fields of activity, but whatever the case, everyone has to work very hard to maintain the metal body. Unfortunately, society has no information of the soul's transmigration, and because the living entity does not hope to enter the spiritual kingdom of eternal life, bliss, and knowledge, he wants to stick to his present body, even though it may be useless. Consequently, the greatest welfare activity in this world is the furthering of the Krishna consciousness movement. This movement is giving human society information about the kingdom of God. There is God, there is Krishna, and everyone can return to God and live eternally in bliss and knowledge. A Krishna conscious person is not afraid of giving up the body because his position is always eternal. A Krishna conscious person engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord eternally. Therefore, as long as he lives within the body, he is happy to engage in the loving service of the Lord. And when he gives up the body, he is also permanently situated in the service of the Lord. The saintly devotees are always free and liberated, whereas the karmis, who have no knowledge of the spiritual life or the transcendental loving service of the Lord, are very much afraid of giving up the rotten material body. Yeah, the context is now Puranjanas has no desire to leave the body. Yeah, that's why Prabhupada explains that what essentially human beings should try to do. Forcibly, he'll have to give up this body at one point of time. Okay, let's see text 11. Bhaya namno grajo bhrata prajvara प्रत्युपस्थिता ददाह तां पुरी कृत्स्नां भ्रातुर्प्रियचिकित्सया। अगला माता जी।
Hare Krishna. Under the circumstances, the elder brother of Yavana Raja, known as Prajvara, set fire to the city to please his younger brother, whose other name is fear itself. Hare Krishna.
So Prajwara is a fever of death. Yeah, we discussed in the very first verse itself. But let us see. According to the Vedic system, a dead body is set on fire, but before death there is another fire or fever, which is called Prajwara, Prajwara or Vishnu Jwara. Medical science verifies that when one's temperature is raised to 107 degrees, a man immediately dies. This Prajwara or high fever at the last stage of life places the living entity in the midst of a blazing fire. Yeah. So, textual. Tasyam sandehamanayam sapura saparishada kautumbika kutumbinya upatapyat shanvaya. Yes, Garani Mataji. Okay, Kishore Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. When the city was set ablaze, all the citizens and servants of the king, as well as all family members, sons, grandsons, wives, and other relatives, were within the fire. King Puranjana thus became very unhappy.
Certainly, it's a situation. There are many parts of the body, the senses, the limbs, the skin, the muscles, the blood, marrow, etc. And all these are considered here figuratively as sons, grandsons, citizens, and dependent. When the body is attacked by the Vishnu Jwara, the fiery condition becomes so acute that sometimes one remains in a coma. This means that the body is in such severe pain that one becomes unconscious and cannot feel the miseries taking place within the body. Indeed, the living entity becomes so helpless at the time of death that although unwilling, he is forced to give up the body and enter another. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that a man may, by scientific advancement, improve the temporary living condition, but that he cannot avoid the pangs of birth, old age, disease, and death. These are under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the agency of material nature. A foolish person cannot understand this simple fact. Now people are very busy trying to find petroleum in the midst of the ocean. They are very anxious to make provisions for the further petroleum supply, but they do not make any attempt to ameliorate the conditions of birth, old age, disease, and death. Thus, a person in ignorance, not knowing anything about his own future life, is certainly defeated in all his activities. Yeah, that we could realize and see in our surroundings actually. Yeah, text 13. यवनोपरुद्य यातनो ग्रस्तायां कलकन्यया पुर्यां प्रज्वरा संश्लिष्टा पुरपालो अन्वत्य पुरपालोऽन्वत्यपत्य. Sorry, Prabhu, repeat Prabhu.
The city's superintendent of police, the serpent, saw that the citizens were being attacked by Kalakanya, and he became very aggrieved to see his own residence set ablaze after being attacked by the Yavanas.
That the living entity is covered by two different types of bodies, the gross and the subtle. At death, we can see that the gross body is finished, but actually the living entity is carried by the subtle body to another gross body. So the so-called scientist of the modern age cannot see how the subtle body is working in carrying the soul from one body to another. This mind body, the man buddhi ahankar, the mind, intelligence, false ego, these are the impressions of that subtle body, and this carries the subtler body, which is soul, to the next body, unless until we get liberation from this world. So this subtle body has been figuratively described as a serpent or the city's police superintendent, where there is fire everywhere and the police superintendent cannot escape either. When there is security and an absence of fire in the city, the police superintendent can impose his authority upon the citizens. But when there is an all-out attack on the city, he is rendered useless. As the life air was ready to leave the gross body, the subtle body also began to experience the pain. Yeah. Text 14. न शेके शोभितुं तत्र पुरुक्रच्छरौरुवेपुता गन्तम् ऐच्छा ततो वृक्ष कोतराद इव सानलात्. Yes. Rula Mataji.
Hare Krishna. As a serpent living within the cavity of a tree wishes to leave when there is a forest fire, so the city's police superintendent, the snake, wished to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat. Hare Krishna.
It becomes very difficult for snakes to leave a forest when there is a fire. Other animals may flee due to their long legs, but serpents, only being able to crawl, are generally burned in the fire. At the last stage, the limbs of the body are not as much affected as the life air. Yeah. So because this example given as a snake, because in a forest fire also snakes are the one who died helplessly. Okay. Text 15. Sithila vyayovarthi gandharve hrito purusha yavaner aribhirajan uparodhorurudoha. Yes, Thal Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The limbs of the serpent's body were slackened by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers, who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. When he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. Being thus baffled in his attempt, he began to cry loudly. Hare Krishna.
So at the last stage of life, the different gates of the body are choked by the effects of disease, which are caused by an imbalance of bile, mucus, and air. Thus, the living entity cannot clearly express his difficulties, and surrounding relatives hear the sound Ghura Ghura from a dying man. In the Mukundamala Stotra, the King Kulasekara states, actually, there's one audio by Prabhupada. Prabhupada scored this very beautiful actually there itself. Krishna Tavadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam Advayame Visatu Manasha Rajahamsa प्राणाप्रयाणसमये कप्पवातपित्तैः कन्थावरोधनविधौ स्मरणं कुतस्ते. Prabhupada says that this is by King Kulashekara. Okay, anyway, let's read it out. So, my dear Krishna, please help me die immediately so that the swan of my mind may be encircled by the stem of your lotus feet. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up, how will it be possible for me to think of you? The swan takes great pleasure in diving within water and being encircled by the stem of the lotus flower. This entanglement is sporting joy. If in our healthy condition we think of the lotus feet of the Lord and die, it is most fortunate. In old age, at the time of death, the throat sometimes becomes choked and with mucus or blocked by air. At such a time, the sound vibration of Hare Krishna, the Mahamantra, may not come out. Thus, one may forget Krishna. Of course, those who are strong in Krishna consciousness cannot possibly forget Krishna at any stage because they are accustomed to chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, especially when there is a single or signal from the death. Yeah. So Prabhupada explains this verse. He says that King Kulasekara is praying to the Lord, saying that, "O Lord, I'm not sure in my last breath I will be able to recall you. I'm not sure when the old age is there, my mind and body will able to think of you. Right now I'm young and youth, and my mind is completely absorbed at your lotus feet. So please take away my life right away so that I'm completely absorbed in you." There's a prayer by King Kulashekara. Yeah. Okay, we'll stop today here. Any questions and things, and we can start tomorrow with the questions if we have any as of now. Else we'll start from text 16 tomorrow. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anantapati Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.